Alright, so back when walls weren't really insulated and drafts crept into the bedroom like 3-year-olds looking for an excuse not to sleep in their big girl rooms, headboards were used to create a gap between the wall and the bed, sending cold air to the floor, thus insulating individuals from the cold. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but headboards no longer serve an actual functional purpose. They're completely ornamental. It's true, and I'm sorry, it's not my fault, but what I am saying here is that headboards are basically the doilies of the furniture world. Hear me out. While doilies may keep your dinnerware from sliding around on the table, headboards may keep your pillows from falling on the floor. Bulletproof. So headboards equal doilies. Confirmed. So today, we'll be building a doily. A really big one. Let's go. The headboard I'll be building today is going to be made out of 3/4 inch plywood. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a full sheet of plywood, so I'll be using 2 different pieces and joining them to make my headboard. For years, I tried to make straight cuts with my circular saw freehand, and it always ended in abject failure. So I figured out if I use a straight edge, I can make straight cuts anytime. I'm using my pipe clamps to join these 2 pieces together with wood glue. If you have a full sheet of plywood though, you don't need to do this step. I'm a big proponent of using what you have. This is leftover scrap wood, and I have so much of that lying on the outer rim of my workshop. So it's great to breathe new life into past failures. Now, I'm not in love with plywood. I want these to look like actual boards. So I'm going to route in a micro bevel using my router to make these look like 1x6 boards. The actual size of 1x6s is 3/4 inch by 5 1/4. So I'm marking out every 5 1/4 inches and using that as a guide for my router. Look at those shorts. What was I thinking? Shorts that scream casual, they belong on the beach, but here I am in the workshop. I apologize for sending you mixed signals. We are not relaxing right now. We are working. They looked much better when I bought them than they do now. But I'm not ashamed, I'm just being honest. If you don't have a router, you don't have to do this at all. But if you wanted to, you could use a circular saw. I'll be using the Craig jig today to attach my 3/4 inch plywood to the 2x2 outside posts. We're going to create holes on 3 sides of this plywood board. I like to go 2 inches from each end and then every 8 inches. A little trick I like to use is to measure up about 5 inches off of the end of the board and then make my marks. That way I can just slide and go rather than having to keep trying to check where my marks are at the bottom of the board. I measured 3/8 of an inch down off my 2x2 post pieces, and I'm going to attach that to the main piece of plywood. It starts to get a little tricky here. There's no right way to do it, so just use what you have, but the Craig right angle clamp really does come in handy to hold things in place. It sort of acts as a third hand while I get everything set. And I'll also be using 2 clamps together to make one longer clamp. And just be creative, have no fear, and call your mom and tell her you love her. There's never a bad time to do that. Life lessons with Rick. Trademark. So using the combination of wood glue and 1 1/4 inch pocket screws, I join the plywood to the 2x2 posts. Look at that 3/8 of an inch offset. That's good stuff. Next up, I'll be joining the top trim, and I have a 1x2 and a 1x3 here. And the 1x2 is slightly shorter than the 1x3 by 1 inch. So I'm marking out a 1/2 inch off of each side and centering the 2 boards and then joining them. Liberally apply wood glue, and then clamp the hell out of them. All clamps on deck. Clamps for days. that is all the clamps that I have. I'm running out of things to say about this. Center the main board on the top trim, leaving a 1/2 inch on each side, and attach using an 1¼ inch pocket screws. It's all coming together now, just like we planned, right? I'll be using these pocket hole plugs. I'm not exactly sure why. This is on the back side, and it's really just extra work for no reason, but it's a good example of how to use the plugs. So you're going to apply wood glue, get them into the holes, let them dry. Once the glue is dry, you're going to cut off the excess, sand it down, and then if you need to apply any wood filler to fill in any gaps, you can do that. Because of the 3/8 of an inch offset, I need to level up the back of the headboard so that I can attach the cleat flush with the back of the 2x2s. To do that, I'm going to be using 2 pieces of 5mm Luan. Now, I don't have a long enough piece because this is all scrap wood. I'm going to double up on the Luan to get to 10mm, and that should get me where I need to be. Just need to take a little bit off the end here. Liberally apply wood glue, and then we're going to laminate these pieces together. So we're going to have 2 pieces at 10mm thickness, and that's going to get us where we need to be. I'm going to clamp these together to save some time and wipe any excess glue that squeezes out. While that dries, we're going to make the cleat to hang this safely to the wall. I set my table saw blade to 45 degrees, and I'm going to make a cut right down the center of this 1x4 board that I made out of plywood. Now that our laminated pieces are dry, we're going to attach those to the back of the headboard using wood glue and clamps. I'm using a piece of scrap wood underneath the headboard so that I can get some leverage to clamp the clamps in tightly. The clamps don't quite reach without the wood. Next up, I'm going to use a Forstner bit to countersink some holes so that I can screw this and glue it into the headboard. It's imperative that we make this straight and level, otherwise when we go to hang the headboard it won't be straight and level. So take your time and make the right measurements. You'll make your life a lot easier and happier in the end. So once you double, triple, and quadruple check that it's equidistant from each end, apply wood glue, and then we're going to screw these in. Pre-drill and then use 1-inch screws to attach the cleat. Rest the headboard on top of the bed frame and then mark out where the bottom of the cleat falls on the wall. Slide it out a bit and repeat that on the other side. Now line up the bottom of the wall cleat with those marks. Grab your stud finder, a level, check for level, and then make your mark, carrying it from end to end. Using your stud finder, check for wall studs. I'd like to get the cleat in at least 2 studs for safety, but unfortunately I could only find 1 stud where the cleat falls. In addition to the bolts, I'll be using these wall anchors. If you put painter's tape underneath, you'll catch most of the drywall dust that's going to shoot out. Line up the cleat and then stick your bolt in and press it into the wall, leaving a mark. Lock and load the recommended drill bit for the wall anchors that you choose. Drill into the drywall, grab the anchor, insert the anchor, hit the anchor with the back of your drill. You probably shouldn't do that. Load up your drill bit, flip your drill to low gear, and drill in the screw to activate the wall anchor. pull it out, and then attach the one side of the cleat. We're going to repeat the same steps on the other side, but first check for level. Now it's time to secure it to the wall stud in the middle. Insert your drill bit, change it to high gear, drill through the drywall into the stud, load up a ratchet bit, flip your drill to low gear, lock and load your bolt, and come to the realization you probably should have changed your battery before trying to get this into the stud. And now we're ready to hang.